Hello, my name is Fiona McCray and I'm in the 12th grade at the Nauset Regional High School.
We are very interested in your story. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Bernhard Besseker. That's a German name. I came to Wellfleet the first time in 2015. I fell in love with a woman who is a resident of Wellfleet and has been here since the early or mid 60s. Because her parents were teachers and they always spent the summer here. I'm a designer by trade or an interior architect, but here I started doing light objects.
Could you share some things that you enjoy about your German culture?
I like to keep things in order. The Bavarian type of pretzels, are bread dumplings, which you usually do with either a mushroom creamy sauce or you do it when you do like a duck or something like that.
Do you miss living there?
I think what I would miss and what I was also missing when I lived in New York City, the variety of cultures on a rather small dimension. I mean, you go, especially from Munich, which is close, you're in 3 hours, you're in Italy. So this kind of change of landscape and language/culture is something I miss.
When you first came to America, did you have any expectations?
Well, the very first time I went to New York, I was going to visit a friend of mine, and then I got very sick, and I had to go to the hospital.
Oh no.
I got paralyzed up to here, so I didn't see anything. And then when I got well again and I finished my studies, I decided to go back. I didn't have like a concrete expectation, but from the feeling here, I think what I got stuck with me, and I think that's why I've always come back to the States somehow.
Did you feel welcomed here?
Yes, in New York City, where there are a lot of Orthodox Jews living there, it felt for me, although I'm born like in 1961, a long time after the war, I felt a little awkward because I didn't know how to deal with that.
I'm sure.
It's like this guilt complex you sometimes suffer from. I felt very welcome. I had a lot of friends pretty quickly. When you are on a party or an event and you're standing alone, there's always somebody coming up to you. And in Germany, you might stand there alone for a while.
Are there any other things that you've enjoyed about being here?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, there is the nature, there are the beaches.
Yes, yeah.
I love to swim. Architecture, I mean, this mid-century Cape Cod modern architecture is very interesting. And this whole tradition of artists, I love history, and I mean, this is the place for me.
Yeah. What do you think would help immigrants feel welcome on Cape Cod and Wellfleet?
Yeah, I think this attitude towards people who are coming from somewhere else, that they're accepted with open arms. I think I'm much more part of the community here than I am back in Germany. It's just a good foundation here because, in a way, a lot of people who ended up here were immigrants at one point.
Is there anything that you wish more people knew about immigrants or people that are new to the community?
I think for everybody who's coming here as a stranger, as an immigrant, it's always nice if people ask, what are you doing? Where are you from? What are your backgrounds?
Yeah.
And I think that would help people to feel seen. I think this is just a basic human rule. I think that this is a very special community here, and I felt that right away, and I feel it every day again when I go out, and most of the people here are really friendly. It's an open mind, an artistic view, and maybe also just an open heart.
Hi, my name is Zahava Baghetti, and I am going into 8th grade at Nauset Middle School. You're introducing your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Elizabeth Salen. I grew up in Uppsala, Sweden, and I was an exchange student in high school out in Western Massachusetts, and that's how I got familiar with the Cape. I would come visit my host brother and his girlfriend who lived in Truro at the time. Now I live here in Wellfleet, and I have 4 sons with my husband, and we also have a shellfish farm in town. So I've lived here now for 15 years, give or take. Like the first few years was a little bit like off and on, because we were trying to kind of figure out how we can make it here year round. Mm-hmm. And also being from another country, I had to apply for like a green card or such, and that process took some time.
What are some things that you enjoy about your culture?
Well, we have this very like a unique word, I guess, that very much like sums up our culture very well. It's called lagom, and it kind of goes back to when the Vikings would be out on their adventures, and when they all came back and they all sat around the table, everyone's like, kind of, how much of this bread or this food can we take? And the word lagom came about because it means enough for everyone around the table. Should be just enough so everyone gets to have a share.
What foods do you miss?
This like blood sausage dish that's like made with like pig's blood and flour, a lot of flour. I think it's kind of like a cakey dish in a way. And then you eat it with bacon, and lingonberry jam is very special to Sweden too. Falukorv, there's this kind of like a bologna, I guess. With like, and they weren't necessarily great dishes because I'm trying to make them now, and I'm like, oh, this isn't so tasty. But when you grow up with it, I guess you just get used to whatever you're wanting. Sandwich spread on the tube that is made from fish roe, and like sour cream or like mayonnaise kind of, and it's like that's like a spread.
Do you miss home?
Sometimes. I think when I had my first son, who's now 10, I was reflecting a lot, or I was very sentimental or nostalgic, and started feeling very kind of like I wanted to raise him the way I was raised in Sweden in a way. But now having a boy number 4 here, I'm just like so invested in being over here, and I can't even imagine raising them anywhere else. Of course I miss home, I miss I miss my family and my friends. It's a beautiful country. This time of the year there's the midnight sun, where the sun never really sets, like around, or it's more around the summer solstice, around midsummer. I love those times, like there's so much about making those into moments in Sweden. Like there's a saying called kura skymning, which means like get cozy around dusk. But I also did want to settle here for a reason.
Did you have any expectations of coming here?
As an exchange student first, it was more about being exposed to something different, like just seeing something, anything I would be like excited about. I was just kind of like a little restless, I think, with my life over there, just feeling like I needed to kind of break out of that.
What are things that you like about your kids being raised here?
Oh, that they're so connected to nature, and the rich history that's out here too, that they learn about it and they get to connect and identify with it too, and that they really are true Fletians. They're born here and they're raised here, and it's so fun. Like I just look at them thriving here. For an immigrant, that it is a lot of work to like come here, and whether it's through a visa or like you have to put in a lot of time and work and effort to get here. And I think a lot of people come here to have a nice experience, or like to get to be part of this place. A major challenge, I know the place I was fortunate to stay at when I first came this summer has been demolished and completely redone now. So for sure that there needs to be a place for people to come and experience this place that's not maybe just like from this country, or super that have like the right economical support to come out here, so more people can still come out and experience this beautiful place for sure.
is Fiona McCrae. I'm in the 12th grade at Nauset Regional High School. We're very interested in your story, so could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I was born in 1961 in the northeast of India, in a place called Patna. I moved to Pakistan, where both my parents lived in Karachi. India and Pakistan were split into two countries. Used to be one country called India. And in 1947, on August 14th and 15th, the two countries were split at the boundary of the two dates. It was a very painful chapter in my personal family history, and also for millions of people. So it was a very sad way to partition a country based on religion. I spent my first 3 years in Karachi. At the age of 17, I came to America. My mother's brother was a US citizen, and he had sponsored her, and since me and my younger brother and younger sister were minors, we were also part of the immigration. The flight from London to JFK in New York is memorable because I saw the movie Grease there. and I, I had all these images of America, okay, it's gonna be like the movie Grease.
Did you find that America didn't live up to your expectations, or?
It was different.
I'm sure.
It didn't have, the
Singing
burger.
and dancing.
Yeah. At JFK, we were picked up by my older brother, who was already here, and he had the biggest car I had ever seen, a Pontiac Grand Prix, I still remember. Every now and then I'd wake up from my slumber, and I'd be dazzled by colors through the car window, and it was a New England fall. We were driving up to Boston.
Did you leave any family in India?
So my maternal grandmother, stayed behind until 1964 or so. My paternal grandfather, he said, I don't want to leave my native land. So he died alone, something that I often think about.
How long have you been living in Wellfleet?
Wellfleet specifically, as far as living year-round, since July 6th, 2020. My wife Nancy has family ties to Wellfleet.
Who or what did you find most helpful with getting you settled?
So my mother actually brought me and my younger brother and left us with our older brother and went back because she had a job and family.
Yes.
My father and my older brother at the age of 17 plus 5, 22. So at the age of 22, he was saddled with a very rebellious 17-year-old brother and a 15-year-old brother, and he did very well with that responsibility.
Are there similarities between where you grew up as a child and the new home that you found here?
There are good people everywhere, and the feeling of community. I feel that it is more so in Wellfleet than in Reading, Massachusetts, where I lived before. Wellfleet has some of what I remember as feeling of belonging and community that I felt in Islamabad, Pakistan.
What are some differences, I guess, in...
Probably the biggest difference, how women are, in society. Pakistan is still very conservative in terms of, women not being in every facet of society there. I should clarify, my mother was at the forefront of, women's liberation in Pakistan. The vast majority of the country was where women, wore a hijab and didn't go out, It's changed a lot since, obviously, but people, in terms of neighbors and community, I think it's much tighter over there. Again, that's how I remember it, and it could have changed by now.
Are there any family or cultural traditions that you and your family are striving to keep alive?
The things that really we've held on to, and I see that in my kids, all three of my sons, is the importance of hospitality, being there for people, you know, and being very flexible in accommodating guests on short notice, cooking, you know, meals for people, that kind of stuff.
Have there been challenges and times when you felt unwelcome?
It was such a vivid experience that I still remember his name. He came out basically yelling profanities at my brother, and my brother is a very gentle, you know, I mean, I was more the fighter, and he was a really non-combative, quiet guy. The way I interpreted it was a clear act of bigotry. So that was the first negative experience, and sadly that happened, you know, as soon as I landed in Acton, which is what I call Acton my Yankee Doodle hometown, so that's where I arrived.
What about particularly in Wellfleet?
Wellfleet, I must say that it's been absolutely fantastic. I'm involved in Palestine-related activism, which is not always popular with everyone. So there's been ample opportunity. Unlike a lot of people, I really exposed myself to, you know, and I've seen people doing similar work in other towns, getting physically assaulted and whatnot. Here, while there were people that disagreed with whatever it is that I was promoting in this resolution, it was civil. There were insinuations made that I was an anti-Semite and some other horrible stuff, but it was just words, and they were said civilly. It's a real testimony to the people of Wellfleet having, you know, first of all, being very well informed. And it doesn't take a college degree or anything like that. People are more open-minded here, and I love that about Wellfleet.
Are there traditions of Wellfleet, like, you know, Oyster Fest and things like that you love to take part of?
I like to meet my friends at my friend Walter Barron's Old Wharf Dory shop. You know, where I've gotten to really know Wellfleet by talking to people who've been here all their lives. Bonfire gathering every equinox and solstice, longboard challenge or whatever.
What do you think would help make immigrants feel more welcome in our community?
They feel that they're part of the community, and to do that, events that are open to the community, where there is an effort made to, you know, invite, you know, everyone, particularly events that are free and don't have a very high barrier of entry.
What do you wish more people knew about immigrants?
I feel a real pang for immigrants, because I know what it's like to leave behind memories, friends, people, things that you love. Different people do it for different reasons. I think the most important thing to know is that there are stories behind each individual. Immigrants have a lot to share.
Are there any foods that really bring back memories of home?
The fruits. I mean, it just tastes different. It's because it's not been mass produced, and you know, it's hand baked, and you know, all the, you know, old world way of doing things.
Is there any new things, like food that you tried here, that really surprised you, or?
Avocados, I love.
What did you study at Tufts, if you don't mind me asking?
I studied electrical engineering and computer science at Tufts.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add that I haven't asked you a question about?
I've been in this country now 45 years, 46 years actually. I've seen a lot change. Wife now, my girlfriend then, Nancy. It was uncomfortable for me to walk holding her hand in Boston, because Boston had a racist, you know, history, and you know, people would give you looks, people would make comments or yell at you, and then things got better and better and better.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience.
This is Maya Braga de Lima. I'm here with
Marie-France Roy.
from
I'm from Quebec, Canada. Well, I grew up in a small town called Montjoly. I lived there until I was about 10. And then we moved to the suburbs of Montreal, north of Montreal, and this is where I spent my teenage years.
what kind of foods did you eat growing up?
food in Quebec is not that different from the food here, you know, but we have, of course, some traditional dishes for the holidays or for special occasions. A meat pie, a mix of beef and pork or one or the other, and lots of spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. Typically people will eat it with homemade ketchup or like fruit ketchup. And of course the bûche de Noël, the log cake for dessert.
Did you grow up speaking both French and English at school and around your house?
No, I grew up speaking only French, you know, except if I was traveling, but I really grew up in a very, very French-speaking environment.
Did you find it difficult to learn English?
Yes and no, but I feel like I really started learning English when I was in an immersion situation, when I was forced to use it every day.
When did you move to the United States?
Before I moved permanently to Wellfleet, I used to work for Cirque du Soleil, and I was working on a touring show, and we were touring mostly in the United States. And then I moved permanently to Wellfleet in 2013.
Coming to the United States meet your expectations?
I thought I was going to work for the circus for a couple of years for the experience, you know, to get to travel around and live that life. And then I thought I was going to go back home, and that's where I met my husband, who's American. And at some point when it was time to leave the circus, we were ready to, you know, settle down, and we were married by then, and we wanted to start a family. We picked Wellfleet. Thought it would be easier for me to move to the United States than it would be for him to move to Quebec. I was a teacher even in Quebec, so I figured it was a skill that could be easily transferred here. I could teach French here. Ended up in Wellfleet a little bit by accident. I guess my husband grew up vacationing on the Cape, and it was almost his dream to live in Wellfleet one day, and I never really thought we would stay here. But then I saw that the Nauset Middle School was looking for a French teacher, and I applied and I got the job. We were finally able to buy our own home here in Wellfleet, and that the community is so welcoming. When I had a child in 2015, all the services for young families are really incredible.
Did you find it difficult to find housing when you first moved here?
It took us a couple years to buy our own house. We bought our house in 2014, so that was before the prices really went up, so it was more affordable then.
What were some of the challenges you faced moving to a new place?
I guess work was a bit of a challenge. I still had to do, you know, a master's in education, and I had to go through the same process anyone who wants to be a teacher has to go through, even though I was already certified in Quebec.
And how did you find the strength to go through these challenges?
I knew I wanted to be here. You know, I knew that that's what I needed to do. I really loved it here. I felt like I was teaching. You know, I was not didn't have to be a disciplinarian.
Was there ever a time where you felt unwelcome moving to a new country?
In Wellfleet, no. Unwelcomed as an immigrant in general, not never directly, but you know what we hear sometimes. Feel as an immigrant that you're not always welcomed, but obviously it's easier for me, much easier for me than it is for more immigrants, because, you know, I'm white and I'm educated and I come from Canada, so I'm very conscious of my white privilege and how, you know, my experience as an immigrant is far from, you know, is much easier than what most people go through.
What do you think would help other immigrants feel more welcomed in Wellfleet?
What we're doing right now, you know, people don't even know that there are so many immigrants here in Wellfleet. I have to say, I was surprised when I found out that just in my daughter's class, there are at least 4 kids who have a parent, at least one parent who came from another country. Any community events, any event that brings us all together makes it easier for immigrants to find their place in the community and to meet people and to feel like they belong. I can't imagine what it would be like to be a refugee or to be someone who immigrates to this country and doesn't have a support system, doesn't speak the language. Sometimes I feel like people perceive me as not as smart or not as educated or not as cultured just because I cannot express myself in English as well as I would in my native language.
Do you ever go back and visit?
Oh yes. Yes. I go every summer. Oh, I take my students my 7th grade students to Quebec City every year.
Are there any things you do at home to keep in touch with your culture?
We're lucky because we're not too far, so we get to visit often.
Are there any new traditions that you've picked up in living in Wellfleet or the United States?
Well, Thanksgiving, first of all. 4th of July, I love Oyster Fest. I would never miss Oyster Fest. We often go to the Blessing of the Fleet. And
is there anything else you want to add that hasn't been asked?
no, I think it's really sums up my experience. My experience in Wellfleet is very, very positive. In the beginning, when he first asked me, what do you think about moving to Wellfleet or moving to the Cape, I said, no way, I would never find a job here, and it's way too small. I always saw myself as a city girl, a city person, and now that I'm here, I love it, and I would, I wouldn't want to move anywhere else.
And just one last question. Do you have a favorite word in English?
Marshmallow. That's a word I kind of like, even though it's very hard for me to say it.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience with us.
Hi, my name is Liam Bertrand. I'm in the 8th grade at Nauset Middle School. We're interested in your story. Tell us about yourself.
I'm Miguel Alcocer. I moved here in the early 90s from Valladolid, Mexico. Valladolid, Yucatan, Mexico. I've been here for 30 years.
Are you here with your family?
No, I only have my daughter here, Cassie. She's 17 years old.
What are some of the things that you enjoy about your culture?
I'm part Mayan, 50%. So I grew up with my grandmother and my mother. They would be able to speak Mayan. They didn't share it, so I never learned it like 100%. I only know probably 2%, which is pretty sad because if I don't do anything, the next generation no one's gonna speak Mayan. But I'm thinking about, when I move back or retire, I like to do that. Brush up my Mayan.
Do you miss any foods?
My mom used to cook so much good stuff. But, to tell you the truth, I've been here for so long that I like American food.
Are there similarities between home and here?
No.
No.
It's a lot different here than there.
Do you miss it?
Not really. After so many years, you get adjusted to whatever you're at,
What were your expectations when you came here?
I saw everything on TV, TV and all that, so I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go out there and have some fun. Let's party,
What was your journey like?
I came here to go to school, but the barrier was the language, so they say, oh, you have to go back to high school, and I say, well, I started, but it was kind of hard, the language, so, and they sent me to somewhere that it was hard for me to get there, and I had a car, but it was difficult, and it didn't work out.
Why did you choose to come here over somewhere else?
Where I grew up is Cancun, so you could take a flight, which is less than an hour, and it was cheap. So I took a plane and I say, hey, I'm going to school to the States, and I applied for a visa and I got it. And
What did you find most helpful getting you settled?
the people. They were so nice to me, and yeah.
What have been some of the challenges you've faced?
The challenges that I had was the language. That was it.
Was it difficult to find housing?
No. When I was here, in the early 90s, it was a lot different. economy was, everything was cheaper. Not like now that you can't find housing.
Can you tell us about times you felt welcome here?
All the time. Everybody's so nice to me. And my plan was to just stay here for a few years and move somewhere else. I mean, I was just backpacking and just traveling. I traveled the whole United States pretty much. And then I decided to stay here in the Cape.
Were there any times that you felt unwelcome or uncomfortable as an immigrant?
No, because I blend pretty good. I don't look different.
What are the main things you like about being here?
The money. Money's good. Without money, you don't survive. So, and work is good. So, and the benefits, everything.
Do you feel you were treated differently because of where you're from?
No, not at all.
What do you think would help immigrants feel more welcome in Wellfleet?
Well, I think the problem is the language. But there's so many, there's Latinos, I think they'll find Wellfleet a really good place to stay. That's why I'm still here.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I've been here for so long. I gotta be here for a few more years, I guess, until I retire.
And then do you plan to go back to Mexico?
Well, I have when I'm not gonna stay there, but just to spend time there, but it's not gonna happen soon, so a few years.
Thank you.
Thank you.